Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 28 of This Valorant Life. Adam and I are really excited to talk about our community today. So, we started this podcast in the fall of last year. And one of the things that we had always talked about was creating community. But maybe before we talk about a community, I'd love to talk just to rewind back and talk about our vision and purpose for this Valorant life. And before I even get there, let me just talk about like what a vision and a purpose is. So a vision is a place where you want to go. It's like a compelling future that you want to get to. So companies have visions. An example would be Patagonia's vision is to save our home planet. You could call that a vision or a purpose. It's kind of a mix of both. And a purpose is like, why are you even here? Like, what is this even for? So with that, maybe Adam, I'll throw it over to you. Can you tell everyone what this Valorant Life's vision and purpose was? This is what we created probably maybe like almost a year ago.
Yeah. So basically, for this podcast, we wanted to create a community of gamers that are focused on self improvement and supporting one another. And just to expand on this a little bit further, I think it's useful to talk about our background here. When I stopped competing, I was like, my next thing was looking into self improvement. And then I kind of merged gaming and self improvement together to like get, I guess, continue on with my journey in gaming. And I think when we started talking, that was very much the case. I think what you led with in our conversations together. And with my own coaching with other clients, there's always that hint of like self improvement that needs to be done. Like everyone has work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal with this podcast is to expand that kind of like flavor, making sure people reflect and do that stuff, that self-improvement side of things, to get better at gaming and treat gaming as something that is a platform to get better individually.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to spread that awareness and hopefully get like-minded people to engage in a community and go from there. I think that self-improvement can be a very lonely journey,
Mm-hmm.
and it's even more so, it's more unique in the gaming aspect in compared to other aspects of life. Like you would probably think of fitness and gym goers as kind of like a similar niche there, but you don't really think of gamers as self-improvement people. So
Mm-hmm.
that's our goal. We're trying to gather those type of people together and hopefully make gaming a better space and inspire other players to be their best self.
Yeah. So I mean, our mission was to create a culture of gaming that inspires players to be their best self, and our vision is a community of gamers. And really, so our podcast has always been leading towards at some point wanting to create a community, especially if there were people that are like return watchers or subscribers of the pod. And so, yeah, I think this is kind of the natural outcome of where we wanted to go. And so maybe I'll talk through what the vision and purpose of the community is. So the vision of the community is basically exactly what we just said, which is a place where gamers can gather, focus on self-improvement and support one another. And the purpose of this community, whether it's a Discord or something else, is just a place where we can discuss what we talk about on this podcast, improving in life, improving in the game, and growing as people and as players of Valorant. And so maybe I'll throw it over to you, Adam. Like with being able to start a community, like what are you most excited about?
I think it's the thing I'm most excited about is really just talking to other people and sharing, I guess, my experiences, but also seeing other people's experiences as well. And I think, no, like when I work one on one with people, I kind of get that already, but it's on
Mm-hmm.
a much smaller scale.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really see as many wins from other people. You can't really share and get feedback from so many people. And I think it'll be interesting to get other people's takes on stuff because everyone comes from different backgrounds. And I think that's what will be most interesting to me, just seeing the back and forth between people. Like let's just say we have someone commenting on someone's nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think in general gamers probably don't eat great, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you get, I guess, perspective from someone that's a little bit older or someone that's in a certain niche, like it can be very helpful. So that's to me what I'm most excited about is just getting input from people in different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. Based on like the YouTube viewership and I think the Buzzsprout stats, I think most of the viewers, listeners are from Canada and the US, but we have people in Europe, and then I think we have like Philippines and Singapore and Indonesia, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And
That
like
is
it would
sick.
actually be cool to meet some of those people in the community.
Yeah, I agree.
What else are you excited about?
Well, I think it's a good place for inspiration. Something that I was talking to you before about this, but like I feel like I continuously go like I'm like up and down on my journey,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I'll kind of like get into gear and then I'll fall off once I get comfortable. I'm hoping that when I with this community, if it kind of becomes fruitful, is it can kind of hold people accountable,
Mm-hmm.
myself included. Maybe a good way to go about it is like we could have a text channel or something
Mm-hmm.
that we just post our like whatever we're doing, like keep streaks going, or like
Mm-hmm.
an accountability thing, just sharing our journey with other people so that we're not going through it alone and it's easy for us to fall off. Because I mean, I'm sure many people have had this experience in their life where you're more consistent when someone's holding you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, if I were to go to the gym and I had someone waiting for me at the gym, of course I have to get out of bed and go to the gym. And I think that it could very easily, I'm just kind of thinking about this on the spot, but let's say like aim training is kind of boring to some people. Maybe somehow aim training, like there's like an aim training block where people just join a text channel and everyone will aim train together. I don't know. But I could see that being a very like kind and useful feature from the community. Not feature, but a bonus, I guess.
It's like CrossFit for Valorant.
Yeah. Group aiming.
Hopefully,
Group
it
aim
won't cause
training.
injuries. I think for me, when I think about what's exciting, is it'd be really cool to just have like a community of like-minded people that feel excited about improving in ranked, improving as players, and improving as people. And I think you will run into people like that, but I think the vast majority of people are on some spectrum of copium, right? Like you're coping about aim, or you're coping about equipment, or your matchmaking and your teammates, right? And I think it'll be really, I'm personally excited about being in a place where there are zero complaints about bad teammates, because we know that the other team has the exact same bad teammates as we do.
That's a very good point. The thought that comes to mind for me is like when you have like a chill environment like that, you start to view the game differently as well. Like a lot of times when people play ranked, myself included, it kind of feels like a waste of time. You look for XYZ thing to complain about and it's not very productive. But if you're spending time, hopefully in a community that's not allowed or like that's not the norm, then you start to view your games in more of like a positive light, like you have a different perspective on it,
Mhm.
which will potentially help you stay on the rank journey long term
Mhm.
and find some enjoyment from it. And maybe that's an important thing to note is like gaming is supposed to be fun,
Mhm.
and I know I've lost that feeling time and time again playing competitive games, just thinking about the toxicity and all of that stuff. So yeah, I think it'd be really exciting to see if people's perspective is healthier
Mhm.
because of the community. Because it's very hard to keep yourself like if you're just alone, locked up in a room playing ranked games solo queue constantly, you're probably not going to have a great time after a long period of time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think community is super important, right? Like I think there's like been a lot of books about Western culture and how like we're going through like a loneliness epidemic, right? And I would guess most gamers are lonelier as a population, and I think this would be a good way to be together doing something that we're excited about. The other thing that comes to mind for me is there's this book called The Culture Code, and he talks about, I think it's Dan Lencioni, no, Daniel Coyle, and it talks about the like winning cultures in like different organizations and places. And so the one that came to mind for me was the San Antonio Spurs were like the model organization for the NBA for over a decade, maybe even more than that. They won a significant amount of championships. They made the playoffs every single year. And so one thing they talked about that was really unique about that culture was that when they were to trade and get a new player to that team, the moment that player got to the team, like he would notice a difference. Players would come up to him and say, "Hey, we're going to be hard on you, not because we like being a hard ass or laying into you. We're going to be hard on you because we only traded for you because we thought you could be more than you are." And so us being hard on you isn't for us, it's for you, because we can see what your potential is, right? And so I don't think I would want this community to be like that intense, but I would want people to be for each other and to have a place where we can foster that culture.
That makes sense. Culture is everything. I mean, even in like small team environments, you see like healthy cultures for teams do well. I mean, if you just seen like the recent Gen G versus Sentinels match, like almost after every round, Gen G was like laughing and having fun, and you can tell that like they enjoy being together. And I think that, yeah, culture is huge, man. And I wish the Valorant culture, maybe the more impressive or more important thing that we need to touch on is like Valorant culture, in my opinion, is very bad. And we're trying to create a space to where Valorant culture can be good and hopefully will be good by bringing the people that we want in the space. And yeah, Valorant culture is just, you get a lot of copers, you get a lot of like weird niches and where like people don't try, and like they think it's kind of like weird to try or calm and play the game, and it's weird to win, and it's just like you get like this whole host of problems that
Yes.
people don't realize are problems. So when they come to me to get coaching, they don't want to calm, or they don't want to like work on that specific issue. Like, oh, I'm just not good at calming, so I'm not going to calm. I'm like, well, sure, we could work on what you want to do, because I can't force them to change. I can only help what they want to do. But it's the fact that is a problem when you're playing a tactical 5v5 FPS game where communication is like
Key,
one of the fundamentals aspects, and like people just think it's weird to calm, is kind of frustrating in that sense.
You know what? I think there's some element of Valorant culture and some element of, I guess, Zoomer culture, right? Is this idea of cringe. And
that is fair.
I think it seems not so toxic or not so bad, but I think, to borrow a young person term, I think it's like low-key toxic, right? In the sense that when you label anything as someone trying and being bad, or kind of being authentic and not being cool as cringe, it just, the box of your life, the design space that you can live within is just so narrow. You can only do stuff that you're good at, will be socially acceptable. And so I feel like that cringe piece is maybe part of the calm piece of like, why are you such a try hard, that kind of stuff. And I think it's like really not a good thing for people, because you aren't fully developed. You don't know who you're going to be. Your life is to be explored. And if your decision matrix is what is cringe and what isn't cringe, then I think you're just going to live a really small life.
When you were talking about that, it kind of made me think of like people not embracing their uniqueness, in the sense that like they're trying to fit in, and they're like, I guess, bringing themselves down to a low level, and whatever that low level is, it doesn't allow you to be unique. And it also makes me think of like this clip that Stewie2K was talking about, where like people in Valorant seem to all be the same, in the sense that like you find one person that sounds like another person in another game, with like, there's that term Valorant accent, right? Like people talk the same, people act the same, people play the same. Whereas like when you look at other games, like Stewie came from CS, he says that is a lot more rare, where like you don't go from one game to another and be like, that guy just sounds like that guy, that guy's playing like that guy. Like you have more unique personalities and more like, I guess, players that you don't think are just, you can categorize instinctively into another bucket. And I think that hopefully something that we can push in our community is being different and being unique and accepting that, and that being the good thing. Because like, if the norm is to play without comms and to play fast and rush every single round and play for aim duels, then being different is playing the game properly. In the sense that like you play a slow attack, you play defaults, you calm your plans, stuff like that. There's also the side of like overcomplicating, and we don't, that can also be problematic. But to think that Valorant should only be played, just run it down aim duel, end the round in 15 seconds type of manner is completely wrong. And I also think that the pendulum is swinging in the other direction, where I think that it's not that sense anymore. I feel like maybe in the first like year or two of the game, it was very much like that. Now
Yeah.
that the game's been out for a little bit longer, it does seem like the people that still play the game now are trying to be more in tune with how the game is meant to be played, but it's gonna take some time to get there.
No, I could totally see that. I think when I just in my ranked games, it's interesting that there are people that will only come kind of when things are going well. And I don't know that this is maybe a culture thing. Maybe this is just more a when things are good, it's easier to be a better teammate. And when things are bad, it's hard to be a good teammate. And I think a big part of this is, and maybe this is even tying back to the interview we had last week with Ryan, is I think part of this is we're on a journey, I hope, that we would all be showing up as more of our best self in all of the situations rather than only the good ones.
I don't know why that made me think about some meditation. It's a practice that I am not consistent with, but I've had periods of my life where I have been consistent with it. And I guess like personally, if that became a culture norm, like for example, if like someone just joined the community and they're like, and we had like an ideal routine listed out, and like, where do I start? Like that's their question. Where do I start? And like one of the first recommendations is to meditate. I think that would be sick. Not because I think meditation is like some, secret key that will make you better, but I do think it makes living life, and more importantly in this context, playing ranked, a little bit easier.
I think that's exactly right. When I was looking through the transcript of the interview with Ryan last week, and mostly to check for swear words, because we forgot to tell Ryan we don't swear. One of the things he talks about was awareness, and awareness is the start. And if you can meditate, that's an amazing practice to work on this awareness that will support you in the game for sure, in terms of noticing your mental state, how your body's feeling. But if you work on that practice, that'll help you everywhere. That'll help you in your difficult conversations with people around you. It'll help you notice when you're feeling nervous in a new situation. It's a real level up that can serve you in a lot of different places. That being said, it doesn't work for everyone, but it certainly is a really good thing to try.
Speaking of Ryan, he mentioned like the willpower side of things when I was like having a conversation afterwards, and I shared with him off the podcast that I have personal difficulties like picking the delayed gratification over the instant gratification. And like I went through some examples like waking up and going back to bed after turning off my alarm, just like an everyday thing. And he asked me the question of like, how do you build willpower? And like me, listening to David Goggins, I was like, do hard stuff. And he's like, yeah, do hard stuff. I was like,
who's gonna carry the boat?
Literally. And I was just thinking, I was like, when was the last time I actually did something hard? And I couldn't really answer that question for myself because I don't play Valorant that much anymore. The last thing that I did that was hard for Valorant was push my RR peak, which was 900 RR, which at this point I think was almost 9 months ago, if not longer. And I think that Valorant is a very good environment. And I know we've talked about this before, for Valorant to reflect your personality and your weaknesses and your strengths of your character in the game. And part of that is like not giving up when things get hard, and also calming. Like you said, it's easier to be a good teammate when things are going well, but it's harder to be a good teammate when things are going poorly. So to kind of tie this all together, I think like Valorant Ranked is a really good place to develop willpower and kind of like see who you are as a person. I know this is getting kind of like detailed, but if you treat Valorant Ranked or Valorant in general as something that is outside of your comfort zone and you're trying to stretch and you need to stay disciplined in this routine to get better and make sure you're VOD reviewing and whatever is the routine for you, and you're treating it like a professional or like an athlete, not everyone has to do that, of course, but it will build willpower, I think. And I think that if you just play Valorant to play, some people will get better than others naturally. But then when you are at the top and you're at the high level and you haven't done kind of like the willpower side of things, I know for me personally, that's exactly what it was. So build the willpower, using Valorant as a tool to do so instead of playing Valorant to get that gratification, like that instant gratification. And I think that's
I
like,
would say maybe I would change it a little bit. I agree with
okay,
the general premise. I think it's more about building your character
okay,
and your belief in yourself, right? Like if everything you do in life at some point, if it's meaningful, will get hard. I was explaining this to my daughter the other day. There are certain things in life that never get hard and they're not very satisfying. I think my example was, is folding clothes hard? No, it's pretty easy. Is it ever going to be very satisfying? Not really. Maybe if you're like really into being neat. Because we're really trying to teach her and for me to get better at solving a Rubik's Cube. And solving it as a beginner is not that hard. You can just learn it in a day. But getting fast, that's hard. And so it doesn't matter if it's Rubik's Cubes, it's your career, relationships, investing, Valorant. At some point, it will always get hard. The beauty of Valorant is that at every point, it is hard. If you're at your correct rank, it will be hard to improve. And so, if you get good at that, if you get good at busting through those barriers, approaching the things that you don't do, aren't good at, and force yourself to get better, that's going to build this resilience to keep doing that in other areas of your life. So maybe I'll bring us back to the community now that we've talked. I think that was like a recap of all of our episodes. I think part of this will be, if people want to be part of the community, we're going to have a code of conduct and we're going to be, I think, fairly strict around it in terms of, I think if you sign up, these are our values and how we want to hold ourselves in the community and with each other. I don't know. Does that make sense to you, Adam?
yeah, like if you, like, let's say like one of our values is like, being kind, and you're like outright attacking someone, then obviously like there's a no-fly zone there.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get booted.
So I think we're going to want people to sign up for that and sign on to that and agree to that. I think in terms of cost, I think this is a big question. I don't know why I don't do this podcast to make money. It's really just an extension of what we want to be doing in the world, which is doing a little bit of something to make it a better place. What we wanted to do though was we didn't want the community to be free, because then I think the barrier to entry is too low and we want people who want to be here. And so maybe Adam, can you explain what we're thinking around cost and this idea around scholarship?
Yeah, so the cost is not going to be expensive. We're not like solidified on a number, but it's probably just going to be a few dollars, just to like make you invested in the community, and you're just not here because it's like a thing that you just want to test out. It's
Mhm.
like, you're here because you want to be part of a community with other people there, and just having that cost is mentally will hopefully have you invest a little bit more. And now, like Tim said, we're not using this money to make money. Like this podcast, like it's not like a financial business or anything like that.
It's
So
actually just an excuse for Adam and I to talk to each other every week. You
oh,
know,
pretty
father to
much.
son.
Yeah, yeah. So the money that is going to be that you use to join the community and whatever gets, what am I trying to say? The money that we charge isn't going to us, it's going into a scholarship. And that scholarship, what we're thinking is to go into paying for coaching from me. So for those of you that aren't aware, I do one-on-one coaching, and currently it's a 6-week program. So that money would go into building a scholarship, and we're hoping to kind of allow community members that can't afford, say, the full-on coaching individually. The community will help pay for that.
Yeah, I think there, like, at this point for Adam to make his living in coaching, I think you're $1,000 for the 6 week program, right?
Correct.
And so I could see some really young aspiring players or maybe people in different parts of their life that would love and really benefit from that coaching that couldn't otherwise afford it. And so we thought it would be really great if we could combine those two things from a really practical perspective, we want people to just pay to be here so that there's some level of investment. And yet we don't want to be seen to be trying to profit from that. So we're going to collect that in a pool. Obviously, there's going to be some net of fees because it'll be through Patreon or some other service. And then once we get to a certain point, I don't know if we want to do it the full amount. I think Adam's $1,000 for that program. I don't know if we cut it off at 800 and that person has to contribute 200, or if it's the full amount. I think we'll decide that later. But that's kind of the mechanism. We want to do this scholarship because I think that'd be really cool to see someone benefit from that otherwise couldn't.
Yeah, I agree. And it also makes me think about, which this is completely a tangent, but I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Mike on it. And obviously, if you've heard of Dr. Mike, he has like many subscribers on YouTube. He makes a lot of money from the platform, but he still like works at a family clinic or something 3 days a week for free. And that's because like that's what he does. He's a doctor. He wants to help people. And I have asked myself the question of like, what would I do if like money wasn't a thing? And I like, there's a lot of things I would do. But one thing that is true is I enjoy working with people, and I enjoy kind of helping people, specifically in the context of Valorant. And I think I would still be doing that, maybe not to the same scale that I am now. I want to help people get better at the game. And because I do it for a living, obviously I have to make some money. Otherwise I can't pay bills and then I can't do the thing.
Yeah.
But hopefully with the scholarship going on is like I can help people and the barrier to entry is a lot lower.
Yeah.
So yeah. Kind of just my thoughts or my sides from that.
No, I'm super excited about that. And obviously there's going to be a lot of mechanics around the scholarship that we haven't figured out and we'll need to figure out and refine over the course of doing this. But I'm super excited about it. The second part is size. So maybe I'll talk about size and maybe you can talk about platform. Adam, I think for size, we want to start with the small community because we really want everyone to be there. We also want to be able to seed a really good culture. And I think actually this comes from my experience with the Sol 2, which is, so we talk about this podcast a lot, Broken by Concept, and that's Coach Curtis and Coach Nathan. They do, I think, basically they're the inspiration for this podcast, but it's in League of Legends. And so I was actually in that community for the jungler community, which is Coach Nathan's, and they actually have a very supportive community. People really help one another and are really invested. I remember one guy was a Grandmaster Evelyn and I played Vi, and I'm like, how do I play against Evelyn? And he just jumped into a chat with me and like, do this and this and this. And he didn't have to, but that's because everyone there, I think, is super committed and supportive of one another. And so we want to be able to start at a size that enables us to do that. So we don't want to start too big because I think that'll be hard to seed a good culture. Right now, we're thinking it'll be around 50. I think that's where we're going to cut it off. And then we can talk, or I think that'll be an ongoing discussion of at what point do we expand that and what does that look like? I think once we have a really solid culture, then I think we can totally expand it. I don't know if we expand it to an unlimited level. We haven't even talked about that. I think there are limits to how big like this can get while keeping a good culture. So that's something for us to explore. But that's what we're thinking around size right now. Adam, I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
No, I mean, that makes sense. Small size is good. You don't want to expand too quick. Yeah.
What are we thinking around platform for this subscription and being able to access the community server?
Yeah, so we have a few options here. The immediate one is like hosting it on Discord in terms of like the actual chat, like gives us the most features because obviously you have text channels, you have voice chats, you can kind of post stuff there. But Discord subscriptions, if I'm correct on this, you can't actually join a Discord server with the subscription from every country. Like it's not international.
Oh,
whereas like I don't believe so. So that means that some people in other countries wouldn't be able to join, which is not what we want to do. So that's why we are looking at potentially using Patreon or Coffee to integrate into Discord. And then basically you would just sign up or like subscribe on Patreon or Coffee, and then that would integrate natively through Discord. So I guess it's probably going to be hosted on Discord. The other option to that is using Skool, Skool. It's more of like a forum post type of community. That's what Broken by Concept is using for theirs. Um, Both are great options, and I could see the benefits of both. And it's not to say that we can't do both, but I think for simplicity's sake, it's probably better to start with one. So
Okay.
with that, I think like the easiest way to go is probably like a Coffee plus Discord combination. Coffee as in Kofi. It's like a Patreon alternative that doesn't take percentages. It's just a flat rate.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably what we're looking at for the platform stuff. But open to ideas if someone has more
Mm-hmm.
details, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you're watching this, and I mean, we're not going to finalize this for the next month or so. I think we'll probably be working on this to roll it out in the fall, either late September or October. Probably that would be the timing. I think we'll be looking for feedback from you, our community, is just around that cost number. Like Adam mentioned, we haven't solidified this yet. I think it'll be probably somewhere between 3 and 5 USD per month. We don't want to make it prohibitive, but we just don't want to make it zero. And then I think we'll probably be looking for some feedback around platform. I think it sounds like we're leaning towards Coffee. If you hate that, let us know. If it's the worst, let us know. Um, I think in terms of events for the community, I think it would largely just be community run. We're not planning on uh, scheduling or kind of creating like a calendar for that. And then I think in terms of interest, Adam and I need to work on that code of conduct. I think at some point we will do community posts and we will have a Google form for sign up and applications if you're interested, just to see what the level of interest is, whether that 50 is even too ambitious or whether we're going to blow that out of the water.
Yeah, sounds good. There's not really much to add to that, I think.
Sweet. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We're really excited about this and where it could go. I'm really excited to have a place where we can geek out about nutrition and workouts specifically to improve Valorant performance. That'll be awesome. Thanks everyone for joining in. Have a great week.